Hello, everybody. Today I'll be giving a presentation on the possibility of a relocation of the Jacksonville Jaguars from Jacksonville, Florida to Portland, Oregon. This is by Madison Wentz and Reese Leon. To start off, I would like to explain our goal with this presentation, which is to advise the Jaguars owner, Shahid Khan, on whether it makes more economic sense to keep the team in Jacksonville or if a relocation to Portland, Oregon would make more sense. We looked at this decision from a financial, an economic, and a social standpoint. We're not just focused on revenue numbers, but also risk, stability, and long-term sustainability of the franchise. So by the end, we would hope to provide enough information for an informed ownership decision. So we're going to go over why team relocation even matters. So for team relocation in the NFL, this is not a new concept, but it is typically a controversial concept. While it can create new revenue opportunities for owners, it also comes with a massive economic and social consequence. So there have been 11 major relocations in the NFL, and the last one being the relocation of the LA Raiders becoming the Las Vegas Raiders. So the relocation impacts come with billions of dollars tied to local businesses, tourism, jobs, and public funding. It also affects fan identity, community pride, and which is, while harder to measure, it still has a major role in the franchise's value overall. So a little bit of background on the Jacksonville Jaguar franchise. The Jaguars were founded in 1995 as a part of an NFL expansion team, and they actually experienced a lot of early success. This helped them build their initial fan base. They made an appearance in 4 out of 5 of their first playoffs, and they had 2 AFC championship appearances. However, since then, they've only had a couple of winning seasons compared to non-competitive seasons. With that being said, Jacksonville fans do rally behind the team when there is success, and this shows that the fan engagement isn't absent all the time. It's just a bit conditional, but that's important because when you're considering whether the market is truly failing or if it's reacting to performance, it's good to know that the fans do rally when there is increased success. So next we're going to compare the market context between Jacksonville and Portland. So Jacksonville is often criticized because it's a small market, but it is an established NFL city with an existing infrastructure, such as the fan base and sponsorships. So it's contrary to the point mentioned that Jacksonville is small, it is already existing and it is a vacation spot as well. So that can be looked at as a positive or a negative because it is a vacation spot a little bit more than a sports city, but it has more to the city than just the sport. So it attracts people for more than one reason. So next, looking at Portland, they, on the other hand, have never had an NFL team, but they have shown strong support for professional sports like the Trailblazers and college football through the University of Oregon. Also, Portland is a potentially larger and untapped market, so it ends up just being a comparison between 2 different cities where one produces stability and familiarity, where the other one has a larger growth potential, but it also comes with a lot of uncertainty. Next, we're going to talk about the economic pros of staying in Jacksonville. So from an economic standpoint, staying in Jacksonville preserves existing revenue streams that are already established. So that includes ticket sales, concessions, merchandise, and parking that are all predictable, reoccurring sources of income. Season ticket holders are especially important because they represent guaranteed revenue year after year. So that's something that they necessarily don't want to interrupt. Another major economic advantage is that the Jaguars avoid the cost and the uncertainty of rebuilding a new fan loyalty. So the Jacksonville already has an established fan base, and relocating would require years of marketing and community investment to relocate or to recreate the level of support in a new city. And finally, even though the NFL has revenue sharing, local revenue still matters. So teams that generate strong local income through attendance, sponsorships, and game day spending are in a better financial position in the long term. So by staying in Jacksonville, the Jaguars keep that local revenue stream intact, and instead of making a risky decline during a relocation transition, they are able to keep the revenue that they already have coming. So we're going to go into one of the strongest arguments to stay in Jacksonville, which is sponsorship stability. So the Jaguars have built long-standing partnerships with major regional and national companies such as Everbank, which the stadium is named after, Publix, UF Health, Baptist Health, Florida Blue, and Coca-Cola. What's especially notable is that many of these sponsors have remained committed during the periods of poor on-field performance. So this suggests that the partnerships are rooted in long-term community versus short-term wins and losses. They're in for the long run. So from an economic standpoint, this kind of sponsor loyalty signifies a reduced financial risk. Stable sponsorship revenue helps offset fluctuations in ticket sales, and it provides consistent cash flow regardless of how the team is doing. And so if the Jaguars were to relocate, especially to the West Coast, there's no guarantee that some of these sponsors would follow. Many of them are regionally focused brands whose market value comes specifically from their connection with Jacksonville and the Florida market. So losing or negotiating these deals would create a lot of uncertainty and potentially reduce total sponsorship revenue within that transition period. So moving into community and identity benefits. So beyond direct financial measures, the Jaguars provide intangible benefits that help the Jacksonville community. So the sports economic research shows that professional teams can enhance their community pride, social cohesion, and overall morale through having an NFL team. So even the residents who do not attend the games, they ended up benefit from having a major league city identity. The Jaguars' place in Jacksonville on the national stage of media exposes the league recognition, and it strengthens their city and their visibility. These shared experiences help reinforce local identity and a sense of belonging, which, while difficult to quantify, it still shows that there's a lot of economic and social meaning coming from the city, from their ability to have an NFL team. So they finally have a potential threat of relocation that can leverage. So these teams can use this and say that it is benefiting their community and their city. So if there's a threat of relocating, they can use that, and they can say that they're going to negotiate with the local government, potentially leading to the stadium improvements or public investments that will keep the Jaguars in Jacksonville because it's benefiting the community rather than leaving. So another important part of this would be avoiding the financial risk of the Jaguars leaving. So relocating an NFL franchise is extremely expensive. Beyond the direct moving costs, the teams face league relocation fees that have typically become hundreds of millions of dollars. So in addition to the expenses, there's also facility logistics, rebranding costs, contract renegotiations, and staff relocation. So these costs extend beyond the initial move, and they can affect the organization for several seasons after the rebrand and the relocation. So there's a significant risk that is tied into rebuilding the brand and reestablishing media relationships, and the uncertainty around ticket demand in a new market. All of these things are big financial risks. So the fan and the corporate support are not also guaranteed immediately after relocating. So all these things add up, and staying in Jacksonville is just a lower overall financial risk. So it would keep a predictable revenue stream that's already there, and also keeping existing media relationships and sponsorships contracts. So that would just avoid having to restart and renegotiate all of those things in a new city. So let's look at the economic considerations of relocating to Portland after we went over all of the reasons to stay in Jacksonville. So some of the potential benefits include access to a larger media market, new sponsorship opportunities, and the possibility of developing a new stadium. Portland also represents an untapped NFL base, which could create long-term growth if it develops a lot of support. But however, there are potential risks that come with that. On the liability side, relocation would involve high league and relocation fees, along with a significant cost upfront, which we already discussed. There's also an uncertainty surrounding that public approval. One, for the new stadium, they could face a lot of resistance from local taxpayers, but additionally, the teams would lose an established fan base, and they would lose established sponsors, so they would need time to rebrand, especially with media relationships and fan loyalty. So when weighed together, the financial burden and the uncertainty to relocate to Portland is just a high-risk strategy compared to remaining in Jacksonville. So comparing them side by side in a summary, Jacksonville represents just a lower risk and a more stable, predictable return, while Portland offers higher potential on the upside, but with a significantly greater risk. So from a sports perspective, like a sports finance perspective, stability often outweighs the speculative growth. So especially when a franchise is already established, revenue stream, loyal sponsors, and an existing fan base, it just maximizes the risk relocating to Portland versus a guarantee of staying where they are with what they already have. So a recommendation would be to stay in Jacksonville. So based on our analysis, we recommend that the Jacksonville Jaguars stay in Jacksonville. The financial stability, established revenues streams, and the strong support from the fans and the loyalty from the community just outweighs the benefits of a relocation. Rather than pursuing the high-risk move, ownership would be better served if they invested in their long-term development in Jacksonville and renegotiated to improve the local support, including enhancing their stadium, working on community partnerships, and strengthening the franchise's future. So in conclusion, the relocation decision in professional sports extends far behind just the simple market size comparisons. So while Portland presents a really intriguing opportunity, the associated economics, financial, and social risks are just too significant to pull the trigger on it. So based on our analysis, remaining in Jacksonville offers just greater stability, lower risk, and more predictable returns. So at this time, staying there in Jacksonville just represents the most responsible and economically sound decision for the Jaguars franchise. And then here's our references. I hope you all enjoyed.